Good evening and welcome to the City of Xenia City Council meeting for February 12th, 2015. We've been in executive session and then special session since 5 p.m. this evening, and we're now ready to start our 7 p.m. session just a few minutes late. So thank you for your patience with us. This evening we will begin with an invocation by Pastor Jim Usher from the Ledbetter Road Church of God, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice President Long. If you would stand with me for the invocation and pledge, please.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you're a God who loves cities. Jerusalem was your favorite city. You were born in Bethlehem, and you were raised in Nazareth. This means you love Xenia. Xenia is a city. And may we return that love by being a righteous city, a city of refuge, a city for the elderly who are weak and feeble, the homeless, who need a soft pillow and a bowl of soup at night. We want to thank you for organizations like IHN and the Senior Center and Jeremiah Tree and the Red Cross and shelters and food pantries in our churches and so many others. Lord, may Xenia be a city of refuge for the widows who live alone and by themselves, and for the lonely who have no mate, no children, just a dog or a cat to pet and hug. Or we think of the words of the prophet Micah, who spoke to the city and said, "This is the requirement of the Lord, to do justice and love mercy and walk humbly before our God." Justice is doing the right thing. Mercy, kindness for those who don't deserve it. And humility, something that all of us in this room and our city need. And may Xenia be a city of spiritual refuge. May our churches be filled with righteous people. May our pulpits be filled with godly men and women who proclaim a message that brings unity in our community and gives hope to the hopeless and faith to those who are afraid and justice in our court system. And let your river flow in the city of Xenia, your river of life, as your word says, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. Lord, let that river flow through the streets and the avenues of Xenia, that we might be a glad city. And we pray this in the name of our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Escher and Vice President Long. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Long.
Here.
Councilman Cowell.
Here.
Councilman Louderback.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Mills.
Here.
Mayor Bayless.
Here.
President Engel.
Here. At this time, we have an opportunity to swear in some Fire Division employees.
You guys ready? Sure. Come on in. We'll just kind of try to gather around here. It's really tight, but we'll get it next week. You guys can come on in. Just try to file in here. So come on in.
Joe, you can bring them on this way.
Yeah, you can file in behind me too if you'd like, along the wall, so you can see. Mike, you or Ken, just sit there close to me. Go ahead and file behind me here.
They say that.
Hi, Jeff.
Come on in.
Congratulations.
I didn't know we
Yeah,
had a
for
requirement.
both of you. Congratulations.
I just have a brief presentation. We're here tonight to recognize and congratulate Mike Staub and Jeff Bruggeman for their recent promotions. Jeff Bruggeman to captain, Mike Staub to lieutenant. I'd also like to, on behalf of Chief Rigsby, congratulate you. You know that if he could be here, he would. Again, congratulations to both of you. I know from experience, both of you worked very hard for this, and you both deserve it. you ask, how do I know that? I've served with both of you for the last 21 years. We've served next to each other. We've been through some good times. We've been through some difficult times. Jeff, I remember one particular fire where we just didn't have enough hose that night. And our conversation, I'll just leave between us, but it was one of those nights that only people who do our job know what we're talking about. Mike, I remember a day on a medic. We had 2 fires going the same time in town, and we were the only medic unit in service. And I remember a conversation about who was going to get there first. We got there first. And that's why I can say without hesitation that I know your character. I know that this community can rest easy with you guys on the watch. You can be proud of your accomplishments, as I know your family are. They show that by being here tonight, and I'm proud of you. I'd like to share a quick quote with you. It's by Vince Lombardi. It says, "Individual commitment to a group effort, that's what makes a team work. It's what makes a company work. It's what makes a society work. And it's what makes a civilization work." It's just one of my favorite quotes, and I really believe it's about individual effort and commitment. When you guys go home tonight and you settle in and you rest, or if you're driving to work your next shift day, I want you to challenge yourself with this question: what's next? You guys are in a position to affect change, and I think that's the question you should ask: what's next? Congratulations.
Gentlemen, repeat after me if you're ready.
Excuse me.
I, Jeffrey Bergman,
I, Jeffrey Bergman.
and I, Michael Stott,
I, Michael Stott.
solemnly swear
Solemnly swear
that as a fire captain
as a fire captain
and a fire lieutenant
fire lieutenant
for the City of Xenia Fire Division,
for the City of Xenia Fire Division,
it is my fundamental duty to serve humanity,
it is my fundamental duty to serve humanity,
to safeguard and preserve life
to safeguard and preserve life
and property against the elements of fire
and property against the elements of fire
and disaster,
and disaster,
and maintain a proficiency
to maintain proficiency
in the art and science
in the art and science
of fire engineering.
of fire engineering.
I will uphold the standards of my profession,
I will uphold the standards of my profession,
continually search for new and improved methods,
continually search for new and improved methods,
and share my knowledge and skills with my contemporaries
and share my knowledge and skills with my contemporaries
and descendants.
and descendants.
I will never allow personal feelings
I will never allow personal feelings
or danger to self
or danger to self
deter me from my responsibilities
deter me from my responsibilities
as a firefighter.
as a fireman.
I will at all times
At all times,
respect the property and rights
respect the property and rights
of
of
all men and women,
all men and women,
the laws of my community
the laws of my community
and my country,
and my country,
and the chosen way of life
and the chosen way of life
of my fellow citizens.
of my fellow citizens.
I recognize the badge of my office
I recognize the badge of my office
as a symbol of public faith,
as a symbol of public faith,
and I accept it as a public trust
and I accept it as a public trust
to be held so long as I am true
to be held so long as I am true
to the ethics of the fire service.
to the ethics of the fire service.
I will constantly strive to achieve
I will constantly strive to achieve
the objectives and ideals,
the objectives and ideals,
dedicating myself
dedicating myself
to my chosen profession,
to my chosen profession,
saving of life,
saving of life,
fire prevention,
fire prevention,
and fire suppression.
and fire suppression.
I accept this self-imposed
I accept the self-imposed
and self-enforced
and self-enforced
obligation
obligation
as my responsibility.
as my responsibility.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yoo-hoo, we should.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much for your service and congratulations. Pause for just a moment to allow people to depart. At this time, may I have a motion, please, for approval of the January 22nd, 2015 special session minutes, please?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please. Second by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on these minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cowell.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Abstain.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now, motion, please, for the January 22nd, 2015 regular session minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mills. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kaup. Any discussion or question on these minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cowell.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Abstain.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And finally, please, a motion for the February 2nd, 2015 special and executive session.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the Mayor. Any discussion or question on these minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cowell.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Abstain.
Councilman Smith.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we have an opportunity for a couple of special presentations. The first one by Sarah Cullen from Rumpke, presentation of $100 gift cards.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity to give you a little update about our recycling partnership. Again, my name is Sarah, and I'm here representing Rumpke. And I brought with me a little video clip that I wanted to show you. I thought it might be of interest. We've talked in the past about our recycling program. I wanted to show you what actually happens to the recycling that we collect in the city of Xenia. So, as you know, the residents of Xenia have access to weekly curbside recycling at no additional charge. Up to 2 recycling bins are available per household. And Rumpke picks up the recycling once a week and takes it to our facility located in Dayton. And here you'll see recycling being unloaded at the recycling plant. This material is coming from the city of Xenia and about 30 some other communities in the Miami Valley, as well as businesses and special venues. So the material is unloaded there, and it will be pushed onto a conveyor belt so we can sort through it. So, and just as a reminder, some of the items that you can accept for recycling are plastic bottles and jugs, and aluminum and metal cans. Paper, almost any kind of paper, cardboard, cartons like juice cartons or milk cartons, and glass bottles and jars. And so these materials pass along a conveyor belt, and one of the first things that we do at the recycling plant is actually look for things that don't belong. Things like metal hangers or plastic shopping bags that might seem harmless can actually damage our recycling equipment. So we have workers looking for those type of things. And as it passes down the belt, then it is going to go over what we call a cardboard screener. It's basically these spinning discs that allow the cardboard to pass over the top of it. That way we can separate the cardboard, and it's packed into bales that weigh about 1 ton each. And so you can see an example of there what the baled cardboard looks like. And then the smaller material is kind of screened out. And this material, it looks pretty messy and dirty, but it's actually mostly glass. It's probably at least 60 to 70% glass, that material is. So it's going to be further processed at our Dayton facility to be turned into a material for fiberglass insulation or glass bottles. And then the other materials, cartons and bottles and jugs, those are compacted and shipped to our recycling plant near Cincinnati. And the reason we do that is because this is a $30 million facility processing about 55 tons per hour. It's one of the most advanced and largest recycling plants in North America. And we use some technology there like digital screening that allows us to more efficiently sort out those materials. So that's the recycling process in a nutshell. And at this point, I would like to call up Tiffany Hammond, if you would join me up here. We were here in the fall, and we talked about our new recycling program, our incentive, if you will, to encourage the residents of Xenia to participate in the program. It's called Look Who's Recycling. And the way it works is there's an online pledge that residents can take, and if they're not already recycling, when they take the pledge, they can check that they need a recycling bin, and we'll make sure that one gets delivered to them. And after they take the pledge, they're automatically entered to win a $100 gift card to Willie's Sports Cafe. So hundreds of residents have taken the Xenia Recycling Pledge, and we hope to do a lot more. In fact, I just stopped by the library on my way here to drop off some materials. They're going to set up a computer kiosk there like they've done here in City Hall to maybe draw some more attention to the program, and people, maybe if they don't have access at home, can take the pledge and be entered into the program. So at this point, I want to congratulate Tiffany Hammond. She obviously took the recycling pledge, and she and her family are participating in the program, setting out their recycling bins every week. So congratulations, Tiffany. Any questions for me?
Just a quick question. Do you know what percentage of Xenia recycles?
I do not, but we can find out.
It's in the single digits. I think the last we looked, it was about 7%. We are remarkably low, not only in the county but in the region, which is one of the reasons we have really tried to reach out to Rumpke and partner, and we'll be having a lot more discussions as we move into this later into this year about how we can improve our recycling rates. Because even beyond the ecological impacts and benefits, the more we put in our landfills, we are paying tipping fees for that. So it's costing our residents a lot more for that service instead of recycling by having it all go into the...
That was my next question. When we negotiate contracts, would we get a break if the more citizens recycle?
One of the things that we will be talking about is how we can improve the accessibility of recycling right at the curb. So I think one of the recommendations that I'm likely to bring back to council is that we move toward the wheeled cart, which are larger, they're more contained, they'll keep the more of the trash dry and from blowing out. So there's some things that we can do through our overall service provision to encourage the recycling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
And one thing that was touched upon was the wheeled cart. When you look at all the items that you can actually recycle, it's very obvious that there is more items to recycle than trash. And at my house, it's just the opposite. The smallest container I have is for recycling versus the large container for trash.
Right.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is that we need to educate our community that when we moved into the community, you had to pay for recycling services. Recycling is free now, and we got to make sure everyone understands that it is absolutely free, and with the containers, no one's tracing, items throughout other people's yards and such. So I think that, we bring attention to this and make a change because it's very important.
I think the wheel cart option, as we discussed that, it'll draw a lot of attention, a lot of
Yes.
interest from people. So we look forward to talking more about that, and also other ways that we can get involved with your special events and other ways we can promote the program.
I'd like to piggyback on that wheeled cart issue because, Xenia, we're like the Windy City. And these bottles are in our street all the time, unfortunately, and it's just because people fill their containers all the way to the top. This is the first thing to blow out. So I do like the idea of the wheeled carts. And the second thing is, and I'm sure Rumpke has no problem with this, if you need a second container, certainly, we have them here at City Hall, I think. Right. They can come and get them. And I use them.
I can just give a shout out to Rumpke because they've been a good partner in trying to really enhance what our community is doing in terms of recycling, which again benefits us in many, many ways. I had the opportunity to tour their new plant. It is a technological marvel. I mean, it is truly amazing what they're doing in terms of recycling and how easy it is to have that single stream recycling now. You don't have to sort things out. You don't have to bundle things in time. You can throw them in the bin and it'll all be sorted at the plant. So again, trying to make customer convenience and ease of use and make it as easy as possible.
And you reminded me a good point. The video that I showed you and many others, they're available on our Rumpke YouTube channel if you want to watch them and share them. And we welcome the opportunity to provide a tour for the council or for civic groups, other entities that may want to come visit us.
You had mentioned also that you'd like to get involved with the community, and I'm going to be speaking about it on BRACA, 19 events that the city is hosting that's free to the community this year, so I would love to talk to you.
Good, perfect.
So how do I get a hold of you?
I'll give you my card.
Wonderful.
Wanna do that? Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Our next special presentation is Mr. Mark Atherton, Xenia Nazarene Church, forxenia.com initiative.
I got a phone call from Councilman Lauterbach a couple of months ago or weeks ago, and he says, I've been seeing these For Xenia signs around town, and I don't know what that means. And he kind of wished he'd gone to the website and checked it out. I've been working in this community 4.5 years. I've been living in this community almost 2 years now. And when we finally sold our house in a neighboring community and we're coming this way, I was discouraged by a lot of people but moving into Xenia. Both people inside the community and people outside the community. My wife and I, as being pastors in a church, though, wanted very much to be living in the area where we were ministering. And so we chose to be able to live in Xenia. Since then, we have grown to appreciate, respect, and love this community and feel good about being part of this community. But I'm most irritated when I hear from a lot of different sources when things go wrong in this community, as they go wrong in all communities. Well, that's just Xenia. And that's just Xenia, and well, that's the way Xenia is. I'm proud of the community that I live in and that I've chosen to raise my family in, and we have been trying to find some kind of little tagline to be able to say as a church that we want to be very much involved in this community. And so we stumbled on actually, we were in Atlanta, Georgia, when we stumbled on something that we could call For Xenia. And so all the things that we do for the community, and I think some of you are aware of that because I've been here before, we have kind of put under the umbrella of For Xenia. We are For Xenia because God is For Xenia. God wants Xenia to prosper in every single way, whether that be financially, or whether that be spiritually, educationally. God wants Xenia to prosper. And we are trying to make sure that our people understand that, and the things that we do for our community, we've just kind of put under the umbrella of forxenia.com. And just this year, we've invested over $10,000 into our school systems in various different ways that we've done that. We have a 100% offering giveaway once a year. The last 2 years, we've given away $60,000, and 3/4 of that has gone right here into this community for needy people, for ministries and charities like the Jeremiah Tree that was just here, and for future For Xenia projects. Whether you believe it or not, I'm not here to toot the horn for our church as much as I am to be able to say I would like to see For Xenia not to be a Xenia Nazarene thing. I would like to see it be a Xenia thing. Everyone around this table and everyone in this room is For Xenia. We may not all agree on how to get there, but we all are For Xenia. And I see no reason for forxenia.com to be just a Xenia Nazarene thing. I can envision signs in every business. There's every single business in this community should be forxenia.com. And I don't know really much how to do that, but I just wanted to share that's the desire of our heart to be able to do that, and wanted to come be able to share that with you as Councilman Lauterbach asked me to do.
Thank you very much. Any
Absolutely.
questions or comments from my colleagues, please? Councilman.
Just a comment, I've always been impressed with how positive Mark is on the city of Xenia. Us as council people, we hear the same thing, you know, it's Xenia, poor Xenia and this and that, but excuse me, I've lived here all my life, raised a family. I'd rather live here than any other place. So I appreciate what your church and what the forxenia.com is doing, and it's nice to have positive influence in the community.
And the only reason I'm here is to try to spread that, and other than the city council and our church, we would just like for the community as a whole and individual businesses to embrace the forxenia.com as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman.
Thank you very much. It's funny you're here. I just had a conversation today with two lifelong Xenia residents that had some negative things to say about some projects that are trying to get off the ground here in Xenia that look like they are going to happen. There's a lot of good things happening in our city right now, and people need to embrace these things that are happening right now and think about where we were 10 years ago and you know, some of these ideas and some of these things that were just pipe dreams them are happening. And lifelong Xenia residents or new Xenia residents such as yourself, you know, need to get rid of the negative thought that it'll never happen. Because, I mean, it can happen. I had a conversation, I had a meeting today with Denny Morrison from Xenia Community Schools. And he just got a 5-year contract. That's a good thing for our city. Our Xenia schools are probably the biggest secret in the Miami Valley. I mean, we have more STEM programs in Xenia Community Schools than some STEM schools have. But yet people, you know, have negative things to say about our schools. I mean, so I give you all the credit in the world for what you're doing and trying to change people's perception of what Xenia is.
And one thing I see, just as a newcomer to the community, for Xenia doesn't mean that, as I said earlier, we all agree how we get to for Xenia, but it does mean being engaged in Xenia. And I see a good deal of apathy, and I can push back on Dr. Morrison on a few things and still be for Xenia as he is too. So it's not only everybody has to agree on everything, but it's the fact that we're engaged and we all want for Xenia to be able to prosper.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Council.
With being very proactive with For Xenia, would it be possible that we could start like attaching the 19 free events that Xenia is hosting on For Xenia?
I'd love for you to do that. And that would be contacting my administrative assistant, Karen Cummings, because if I do that, I'll mess the whole website up.
What is Karen's last name, sir?
Cummings.
Cummings, okay, thank you.
I appreciate you asking that.
Other comments, please. Thank you very much for what you do. We do appreciate it, and we are, as you say, all for Xenia. At this time, we have a public hearing scheduled on the 2015 operating budget. Mr. City Manager.
Question from the audience. Is there a time allotted for comments?
Right after the public hearing, sir, we will have an audience comments time. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief statement before we engage the public hearing. City Charter Section 9.05C requires that Council adopt an annual budget by April 1st of each year. In compliance with this provision, tonight we present the final budget for Council's approval. So we've discussed through the budget review process and have projected for the last couple of years. The city continues to face challenges with respect to our key operating funds, due mostly to reductions at the state level in local government funding and elimination of various taxing authorities which provided key operational funds. As always, our first and most important priority is to be good stewards of public resources. We present this budget understanding that it will likely result in some degree of deficit spending, though on an actual basis it will be much less than what was presented on a budget basis. Based on staff's analysis, we project sufficient funds to cover likely overage and still maintain our minimum reserve fund balance as set by council policy. We detailed a few weeks ago, staff has developed a plan of action to return the city to a positive cash flow over a 2 to 3 year timeline, with projections estimating that we would replenish in a reserve fund utilization over a 5-year period if all options we have presented are approved and implemented. In general, staff is pursuing a 3-pronged approach in seeking financial security. 1, continue to seek cost-cutting measures relative to services, especially those realized through shared or consolidated service agreements, application of technology, and improved efficiencies. 2, overcome over the short term, leverage opportunities to increase key operating revenue through available means as a stopgap funding basis. And 3, over the intermediate to long term, focus on intensive efforts and new resources and align new resources on expansion of the tax base to minimize new revenue creation over the long haul. Regardless, staff will be committed in conjunction with council to taking whatever steps necessary to ensure the good financial standing of the city. I would ask that you note that the budget as presented this evening shows all funds with a positive balance, includes 3 new funds, including the Police and Fire Capital Improvement Fund, the Information Technology Fund, and the Self-Insurance Fund, and incorporates additional resources focused on economic development activities through the ED 360 initiatives. As is our custom, accompanying tonight's final budget legislation are proposed financial management policies and goals for fiscal year 2015. These are largely consistent with last year's version, though they include references to the new funds added to the budget as listed previously. Staff recommends council conduct the public hearing, waive the second reading of an ordinance at 2 consecutive meetings, and passes an emergency the ordinance adopting the 2015 operating budget for the city of Xenia, and additionally passes an emergency resolution adopting the financial management policies and goals for fiscal year 2015.
Thank you very much. I will open the public hearing at this point and invite anyone who wishes to speak for the 2015 operating budget to step forward to the podium, please. Provide us your name and address. Limit your comments to 2 to 3 minutes, please. Seeing none, I would ask anyone who wishes to speak against the 2015 operating budget to step to the podium, please. Provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes, please. Seeing none, if someone wishes to speak neither for nor against this operating budget, you would please step to the podium, provide us your name and address.
Is this the only chance to make a comment, or?
There will be a time afterwards, sir, for general audience comments. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on the 2015 operating budget at this time and invite a motion as an emergency, please, for passage of this budget.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. A second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on the motion in front of us, please? Councilman.
Thank you very much. The one thing in the 2015 final budget that I don't agree with, and that's the appropriations for the new City Hall and Justice Center renovation project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the budget, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cow.
Abstain.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now a motion, please, as an emergency to pass our financial management policies and goals for 2015, please.
So moved, Mr. President, as an emergency?
Yes.
As an emergency, sir.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please.
Second, Mr. President.
Second by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Cow.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. At this time, we do have an opportunity for audience comments. If anyone would care to come and address the Xenia City Council, you're welcome to do so. Please step to the podium, provide us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 to 4 minutes, please.
Good evening.
As a note, sir, for the portion of the audience comments, it is your opportunity to address council, but council does not answer questions at this
Absolutely.
particular time.
That's fine. So what
Thank
do I
you.
have, five minutes?
3 to 4 minutes, please,
4
sir.
minutes? Okay. I was not planning on being here tonight,
I'm
but
sorry, we need your name first, sir.
And address,
for
please.
record.
my name is Virgil. You're not going to get my address. You don't need it.
Then
So-
you may not speak, sir.
Why is that?
It is rules of council that we will have an accurate record of what is accounted for here. We ask for your name and address for you to speak.
Okay. 631 Ridgebury, Xenia. Okay?
What's his name?
Is that satisfactory?
And your full name, sir.
My name is Virgil Vaduva. Most of you guys already know me. All right. I guess the timer starts now. So I was not planning on being here. And since I only get 5 minutes,
3 to 4 minutes, sir.
4 minutes. I'll make it quick. A couple of days ago, a radio call came through the police dispatch about a woman across the street here. She was just getting out of jail, and she had no money, no cash, no phone, nothing to help her out, nobody to call. And she walked across the street to the Dollar Tree here to ask a couple of people for some cash. So she made the mistake of asking someone for a couple of bucks, right? So what happened is your brave men and women in uniform showed up to try to arrest her. They started threatening her with arrest, right? Why? You guys know? Because panhandling is illegal in Xenia, right? So ordinance, I think it's 13-31. You guys passed it a couple of years ago. I don't know what you were thinking when you passed it, but I can't believe that. I didn't even know there's such an ordinance on the books in Xenia. So you basically outlawed poverty in Xenia. That's what you guys are saying, right? So what we're going to do is, since you guys proudly call yourselves public servants, you talk about that when you run for election, make a big deal out of it, and we're the public. So therefore, you're our servants. We're going to tell you what you're going to do. We're not going to ask you. I'm not here to petition you or beg you or ask for anything. What we're going to do is, there's a large group of us. Most of us couldn't make it here tonight because it was a last-minute thing. But we're going to give you guys a fair chance. We're going to give you 2 or 3 months to get rid of this ordinance, do the right thing. It's unconstitutional, we believe. It's immoral. It's unethical. I hope you all heard what the pastor was praying about when he opened up with prayer. Xenia is a city of hospitality, all that crap, right? Well, it doesn't seem like you guys are willing to treat the poor that way. So you're willing to criminalize being poor and asking other human beings for help. So if you don't get rid of this ordinance, we're going to file a federal lawsuit against the city of Xenia. Get to the point. Talk to your attorneys. Take 2 or 3 months to resolve this, and we're going to deal with it appropriately. On top of that, we're going to start having food, clothing, and cash drives right in front of your door here, okay, on a weekly basis. If you guys don't want poor in town, we're going to make sure we're going to take the appropriate steps to help them out, your people in the city here. So, any questions from anyone? I'm sorry to throw some cold water on your party here, but this is a pretty serious matter. And if you guys are not going to take it seriously, cities of Portland, Lansing, Fort Lauderdale, there have been federal lawsuits all over the country where municipalities have lost lawsuits like this. Any laws against loitering and panhandling, unconstitutional. So I'm encouraging you to do the right thing, follow through with this city of hospitality stuff, the idea of helping people out, everything else that was said earlier. Do the right thing. Fix this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else care to come and speak to the City of Xenia this evening? If so, please step to the podium.
Yes, sir. My name is Micah David. My address is 1851 US 68 North, Xenia, Ohio. I was very moved by, I believe his name was Pastor Usher at the beginning. He quoted from my namesake, a book in the Bible, the minor prophet, we say because it's only 6 chapters long or so, Micah, or Micha in the Hebrew language. One thing I'd like to point out is in quoting that he talked about God-loving cities, but when he quoted the prophet Micha, he quoted God-loving justice, and the word for justice in the Hebrew language, as some of you might know, if you've heard, words in Hebrew, they share roots, and you can tell a relationship between words based on their roots, their 3-letter roots. The word for justice is tzedek, and the word for charity, giving alms to the poor, giving money to the poor, giving food for the poor, is tzedakah. It's the same root. Justice and charity, giving food to the poor, giving money to the poor. And traditionally, in the tradition of the Hebrew prophets, if anyone asks you for money, for food, for anything, you're supposed to give it to them. And I was very moved by what he said, by what he quoted. And reading over the law, the ordinance 1331, it seems to me that perhaps this just got pushed through. It looked like the police, based on the preamble there, had been pressuring you all to push it. And some of the stuff's maybe snuck past you. That happens sometimes, I understand. But reading through all of the ordinance, it really does criminalize pretty much anybody asking for anything. They have to stand very, very far away. They can't talk to you if you're in a car. And I don't think that that's representative of the Xenia that I've been living in, the city of hospitality. And I would second what Virgil has said and urge you to get rid of this law. I think we all believe in the Constitution, and we all believe in free expression. And if certainly street harassment is already illegal. If somebody harasses you on the street and you tell them to get lost, and they don't get lost, and they intimidate you or obstruct you, that's already illegal. I don't think we need to criminalize being poor, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian. Certainly, that's not in the tradition of Jesus' teachings, and he very likely himself would have been in those same shoes. He didn't seem to have a job that he was getting paid for. He looked like he was surviving off of donations himself. And I remind you of the statement, I believe it's in the Gospel attributed to Matthew, where Jesus talks about on the day of judgment, people would say, Lord, Lord, when did I see you poor, naked, in prison, all of these things? He said, when I was in prison, you didn't come visit me. When I was poor, you didn't feed me. You didn't give me anything. I said, when did we see that? And he said, as you've done to the least of these, so have you done to me. And I think a lady getting out of jail, down on her luck, just trying to scrape a few bucks together, that's not hurting anybody. So I would urge you to reconsider this ordinance and hopefully scrap it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else care to come and address the city of Xenia this evening, please? If so, please step to the microphone.
Hello, my name's Christine Hubin. I live at 993 Reed Avenue. My family has lived in Xenia for over 50 years now, since 1955. That's when my grandmother moved into Xenia. And I would have to say the people in Xenia are very giving people. I mean, I've seen it in my own family. My grandmother gave you the shirt off her back. So I definitely hope you do reconsider that 1331, provision 1331. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing no one else, we will move. Oh, I looked down. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sue Hunt. I live at 1373 Galtice Road in Xenia, Ohio. I just wanted to be a positive, say a few positive words. I have been actively involved, most of you know, in downtown Xenia now for over 4 years now. And we have had many accomplishments in cooperation and partnership with the city staff and the city council and BRCA and a lot of other people. And I've seen so many positive things that have just made me so proud of my community. And the development of the X plan, and for us in downtown Xenia now to strengthen the core, that was one of the first things that are in the X plan. Now the recreation center is coming on its way. City Hall is staying downtown, which as you probably remember, I spoke a little bit about. And I just am glad that the government center, the municipality, is staying downtown. And because we've just done research that when they leave town, the core of the town weakens. And this is our county seat, so I was hoping and probably praying a lot that it would stay downtown. So I'm really happy about all the things that have happened, and I just want to support you and thank you for all the hours and days and months of research and study and time that you've put into our town, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to come and address these? Why, sure, why not? Thank you.
As most of you know, my name is Rhonda Houston. I live at 171 Tranquil Drive in Xenia. I'm also with downtown Xenia now, but that's not why I chose to talk about this. Most of you know, I've only lived here for almost 5 years now. One of the first experiences I had with the city of Xenia was getting a fence permit. I have never in my life had so much trouble finding anything. I was on the website, I'm looking in the phone book, I'm a new resident. I don't know, what do you mean it's not at City Hall? It's where? What is a Towler Road thing? To me, doing the City Hall downtown and expanding it and combining everybody in together, although it would have meant that I wouldn't have been with Mary on downtown Xenia now, which some people may have been thankful for. To me, moving here would have made life so much easier if I had been able to go to one place and say, okay, I need to go down here and sign up for my water. I need to get my garbage, my recycling bin, and oh yeah, that fence permit that I need. I would have been able to go to one location and found everybody I wanted. Not, okay, where's Towler Road? I'm a relatively intelligent person, but if you tell me that I have to go all over Xenia to find everything that I need to live here, you're making my life inconvenient. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky, and never experienced anything like the scattered offices. So for me, I know that a lot of this there's a lot of discussion, a lot of drama about the City Hall. And I understand that there's extra costs associated with it, but I'm willing to take that on to make life convenient, not only for me, but for everybody else in the city. And to bring all those services together so that people can work together as one city administration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening? You'll get your chance tomorrow. Seeing none, I'm looking down and looking back up again. We'll move on to reports of committees. Councilwoman Mills, please. Board for Recreation, Arts, Cultural Activities.
Thank you very much. We had our January meeting and, actually we took January off after a long season, but we had our February meeting, and at that meeting we had discussed where we were going with this year. And so we are very excited to be able to say that we have 19 free events for families and residents of the Xenia community to join us with BRACA. We have movies, we have Easter egg hunts, Arbor Day activities, First Fridays, Volunteer Day, fishing derbies. We have 5 movies, 6 music bands during that time period, and Hometown Christmas that we participate in. And so it's very discouraging when people say that there's nothing to do in Xenia, and because we have so much to offer, and we try our best to get the messages out. We post them on the sign there on Detroit Street across from Speedway. We have it on Facebook pages. We have them on websites. We do commercials here at City Hall. We do everything we can. We have it in the paper, and sometimes still it's people say they don't know. And I just wish that there was a magic way, or if someone knows a magic way, please share to be able to let you guys know. But our newest movie, or our next event, is going to be March 20th, and it's Planes Fire and Rescue. And I've asked a request to have the policemen and firemen come because we are talking about the heroes of the community in the cartoon version of Planes, and we would like to honor the heroes in the community of the fire and policemen here. So that is what we would like to do. Flyers go out to every school-age child from preschool to 5th grade that they all know, and so we hope to have it. It will be held at Faith Community. We call ourselves the off-site location for movies in the park. And so that way we are able to host 7 movies a year. So please, mark your calendars for that. And I will just keep on updating people as the events roll along of what BRACA is doing. But that's the most event to the time.
Thank you very much. Anything for Councilwoman Mills and Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities, please. Seeing none, Councilman Smith, please. Traffic Commission.
Thank you, Mr. President. Xenia City Traffic Commission had no meeting in the month of February. I would like to wish Norm DeHaven of the Traffic Commission just a speedy recovery. Norm has been a member of the Traffic Commission for a long time. Also as a co-chair, he's just a wealth of knowledge and information. And I'd just like to wish him a speedy recovery right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything for Councilman Smith and the Traffic Commission, please? Mayor Bayless, Board of Zoning Appeals, please.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on January 26. The following items were presented. First, a variance to allow a new 6-foot-tall wood privacy fence in the front yard of a double frontage lot at 682 West 2nd Street, filed by Roger McDaniel for the property owner, Fraternal Order of Eagles, and that was approved. Second, a similar use determination to allow construction of an outdoor storage facility on a vacant lot, and a conditional use to allow a 6-foot-tall chain link fence with barbed wire strands on top of the fence to be located on Industrial Boulevard, Lot 6, filed by property owner Ryan Howard, and that was approved. That's the Howard Companies. Third was a variance to allow a preschool to have an outdoor play area without the required fence or wall enclosure at 441 Ledbetter Road, filed by Lauren Robinson at First Church of Christ for the occupant Little Learners Christian Education Center, and that was also approved. The fourth was a variance to allow construction of a 2,592 square foot one-story duplex that does not meet the required yard setbacks and also does not meet the minimum lot area at 717 Vine Street, filed by property owner David Chrisman, and that was approved. And of course, it was based on the lot, and that's another story, but anyway. And then also, he also filed to allow construction of a 2,432 square foot one-story two-family addition onto an existing single-family home at 739 Vine Street without meeting the required front yard setback. And that was also approved.
Thank you very much. Anything for the mayor and the Board of Zoning Appeals, please? Seeing none, anything from any of my colleagues from items from City Council and Mayor this evening, please? Seeing none, moving to reports of city offices. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me. First this evening is a request for authorization to apply for grant funding the United States Fire Administration's SAFER program. Grant provides financial assistance to help fire departments rehire firefighters that have been laid off, retain firefighters facing imminent layoffs, fill positions that were vacated through attrition, as in our recent case, or to hire new firefighters. Our application would request funding to cover expenses for 3 full-time firefighters who would supplement current services and expand our per-shift staffing capabilities. Xenia last applied for SAFER funding in 2011 and was subsequently awarded grant funds for operational use beginning May of 2011, lasting through summer of 2013. At that time, Council authorized the additional staffing through the grant with the provision that if new funding to cover these additional expenses could not be secured, the retrenchment to typical staffing levels would occur through attrition at the end of the grant period. As Council is aware, this was in fact the course of action that we had to follow. This application, I'm recommending Council employ the same policy for this round of funding, in that if awarded, we guarantee this increased staffing level only during the grant period for which we are required to maintain the elevated staffing levels. As before, should no new revenue sources be secured, we would again, through attrition, revert back to normal staffing levels through the grant, following the grant period. Additionally, please note that the grant awards are expected to be announced approximately June of this year. By accepting the grant, we'll be required, as I said earlier, to maintain the staffing levels through a 2-year grant period. As discussed during our budget review, offsetting revenue and expense lines for these firefighter positions have been included in the final budget in anticipation of the grant opportunity, so no additional appropriation action will be required if we are in fact awarded.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city manager to submit the application?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the Mayor. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Councilman.
Thank you very much. The last time we accepted the SAFER grant, we did keep on the firemen past the grant period, adding an expense to the city. We've had discussions with the city manager. I just think it's imperative that we all go into this SAFER grant this time with the understanding that if the grant, at the end of the grant period, we don't have the funding, the firefighters go away this time. And I believe the city manager's in concurrence with that.
I'm in concurrence, and again, we feel based on the projection of things that it is likely that we will have another wave of retirements about that same time. So our hope would be able to do that through attrition and not have to do any layoffs. But again, I think we should be prepared to pull the trigger if necessary to bring us in line with what we can afford in terms of fire staff.
Thank you very much. Any other question or comment? Councilman?
Will this eliminate some of our overtime?
Yeah, we anticipate that over the 2-year period, we should save between $1,500 and $1,000 in overtime. So in addition to the service level being a little bit higher because we'll have more firefighters on or available per shift, we should see some degree of reduction in our overtime expenditures on an annual basis during that period.
Just a curiosity question, maybe Joe can answer that. Who writes this grant?
Our last grant writer has actually moved on and is the Township Administrator of Beaver Creek Township. Captain Brenneman, I believe, will be the primary author working on this with the chief and the deputy chief.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long. Aye. Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Balis.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next this evening is a request to authorize an award for crack sealing of city streets using the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program and issue a purchase order to JA Construction Incorporated from account line 361-1441-55508 in an amount not to exceed $100,000. As discussed with council during a recent presentation on street rehabilitation programs, crack sealing is a critically important component of our street program as it allows us to maximize the life of streets through a validated preventative maintenance technique. Tonight's requested action will allow us to put into motion the crack sealing portion of our street program for fiscal year 2015.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Kaup. Second, please.
Second, Mr. President.
Second by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Councilman?
I've got one. This pretty ambitious list of roads here, is that just a pipe dream, or is this like most of them going to happen?
We
or?
feel like it's pretty realistic. Last year, what we found is that the dollars that we had budgeted went a lot farther than we expected, so we actually did 2 to 3 phases. We'll go as far as the funds take us, but we feel pretty good that we'll be able to get quite a bit accomplished.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question? Mr. Vice President?
It's related to this, but the last time we met and talked about the roads repaving program, a map was given to us. Is there any way to get that map cleaned up, and not to me, but to the public, just so we can continue to put out front the roads that have been paved?
And I'm not certain, but I think we'll probably detail in our upcoming newsletter quite a bit of information on the street program. We can certainly include that map.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Balis.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next this evening, we're requesting authorization to utilize the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of 2 Ford Transit vehicles and to execute a purchase order with Donnell Ford Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $44,055 for said purchase. As described in your agenda report, the vehicles being replaced are 15 years old and are due to increasing maintenance expenses and decreasing functionality, no longer provide reliable and cost-effective operation. Additionally, I placed at each council seat tonight the maintenance report. These were generated as part of the overall package, but somehow missed their way into the final report. So you do have for our recent standard, you do have the maintenance reports on the vehicles.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city manager to participate?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Mills. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the mayor. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Balis.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Finally, this evening, as staff has discussed with council, the legacy of the city's long-closed landfill is a lasting obligation that we must be vigilant in overseeing. Among our obligations, landfill groundwater monitoring is a compliance requirement detailed through the Ohio Administrative Code. Samplings include 2 semi-annual detection events and 2 semi-annual corrective measures events. AMEC Foster Wheeler, formerly MacTech, has been a long-term vendor with the city providing these services cost-effectively and to good effect. Staff is recommending that council move to pass an emergency ordinance to waive competitive bidding for the landfill post-closure groundwater monitoring activities for 2015 and to authorize the execution of a contract with AMEC Foster Wheeler for said services at a total cost of $31,702.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, as an emergency to waive bidding and to award the contract, please?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
And I am remiss because I do not have it with me, but we are pleased to announce tonight, and I again have the press release, but I failed to bring it up here with me. We are planning to host a criterium race here in Xenia. The Tour de Xenia will be May 31st of this year. This is a big deal for our little city. It's a significant regional draw, statewide in fact. Time trial race that will be held around Xenia Park in May. We'll be in the planning phases very fervently here in the coming weeks, but we'll be releasing more details and want the public to come out and enjoy it, hoping our local businesses can participate in sponsorship and benefit from an expected 2,000 to 3,000 guests in our community that weekend. So again, very excited to see more activities here locally, more opportunities to spread the virtues of a community that is definitely on the rise and despite some naysayers, does care about people of all sorts and types. So just want to put that out there that we're excited to announce that.
May what?
31st.
Thank you very much. Anything for our city manager this evening, please? Seeing none, Mr. Finance.
I do have one thing. I'm sorry. I received 2 phone calls this week, and I meant to call the city engineer and totally neglected. Cornwall and Colorado, I'm told, are in deplorable condition as far as potholes go. And I know they're not on the list to be repaired. Can we get somebody to take a look at that? Thank you.
Anything else for the city manager, please? Seeing none, Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. One item this evening, the schedule of bills in the amount of $533,000, $144.28.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to pay our bills this evening?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Any discussion or question on the bills this evening? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Anything for the Finance Director this evening, please?
Who's this?
That's Law Director.
Who's finance? Where'd that come in? Is this yours?
I'm not sure what you got there.
Prepared by him, but it's during the second reading.
Yeah,
so
if
it's
you're
not
referring to the
second
supplemental information, that
Yeah.
was for the council, was prepared in the format of an agenda item. I certainly, or Brent can certainly go over that at the second reading of the bond ordinance, if that's what the mayor is referring to. Yeah.
Mr. President, I hate to go out of order, but I did receive notification just moments ago that we do have one additional item if it's appropriate to bring that forward at this time.
Please do.
And I will pass this out. As discussed in our executive session this evening, and as I just was notified, the IFF local unit has been in negotiations with the city. We've just recently reached a tentative agreement as detailed to council before the meeting in our executive session. I received notification that the union has ratified the terms and conditions as presented to council this evening, and we're making a recommendation that council move to authorize that contract. In doing so, we'll execute that retroactive to the 1st of this month.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to approve the contract?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Any discussion or question on the motion? Councilman.
Just one statement. It's always a pleasure to be able to get to a contract negotiation in-house. So thank you. Thank you for both parties.
Anything else? Questions, concerns? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaut.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Abstain.
Mayor Balis.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We're done with the Finance Director, right? Okay. Mr. Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few items this evening. First is the second reading of a resolution amending Appendix 2 of the Employee Benefits Manual, non-union wage ranges of the City of Xenia per Xenia City Ordinances Section 260.02F, originally introduced by Councilman Lauterbach.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach for passage. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Councilman.
I'm sorry, can I get a refresher what that is? Do you have the reading?
I don't have
Should
it.
be the updating the minimum wage.
Minimum.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what minimum wage, sorry.
Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Balis.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next, we have a resolution to withdraw the City of Xenia from the annual financial contribution to the Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission, originally introduced by Vice President Long.
So moved.
Move for passage. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Kaup. Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Balis.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And that's it. Now, we have one more item. Second reading.
It's not April yet, Mr. Law Director.
Second reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $8 million of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the cost of renovating the present City Hall and constructing, installing, and equipping building improvements known as the Whiteman Lot Administration Building and matters related to such bonds. This was originally introduced by Vice President Long.
So moved.
Move for passage. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mills. Discussion or question on the motion, please? Councilman.
Thank you very much. I actually have a question and then a comment. As far as my question goes, if these bonds are out there, are we going to try to utilize local financial brokers to sell these bonds?
We the proposals from the underwriters are due tomorrow, and we will take a look at them with the financial advisor probably next week, and then make a decision on a recommendation, and we will be bringing the selection of the underwriter back to council at the next meeting. So, I guess it depends. I don't know what you mean by local brokers. Obviously, there are local agents, there are national or, statewide organizations associated with that. So, but we will certainly take a look at the proposals we get back and review those and make a recommendation to council, and then council will make that ultimate selection of the broker. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I just
Obviously, I
had a
don't know
conversation-
exactly who's going to, we've received a few so far, but I don't know exactly who's going to.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a local Edward Jones broker, and he had mentioned that they sold over $2 million in bonds for the schools right here in Xenia. And he felt pretty confident that, I believe we have 3 Edward Jones here in town.
I'm not sure.
He felt pretty confident that they could sell $8 million worth of bonds right here in Greene County. So, it would at least be keeping some money local here. My other comment, we did receive bids back on the building. I will be voting no on the bonds. The bids came back higher than what we anticipated. Years 1 through 10 will now cost $521,000 per year. Years 11 through 25 will cost $455,000 per year, for a total project cost of $12,035,000. That's roughly about $1 million higher than what we had anticipated. So I was against the project at $11 million, and I'm definitely against it at $12 million, an additional $1 million. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Councilman.
My question with this new information that Councilman Kaup just read, will $8 million be enough
I believe so, with
The
the,
project just
again, with
jumped up a million.
it jumped up a little bit. I think if we go with the low bidder, and obviously there are no guarantees yet, they're still, looking at the bids, but should there be nothing amiss with going with the low bidder, I believe we would have enough within the threshold of that $8 million to construct a bond issue that will be sufficient. I think where we are, kind of on the unknown is with this and why we're increasing the amount of the cost, as Councilman Kaup explained, to the estimated, and I will say estimated at this point because we are actually not going to go to market the bonds for probably another month or so. So it's based on the current interest rate environment, and we haven't met with, as I was saying, the underwriter yet to structure the bond issue. But I believe that with the low bidder, or maybe even the second low bidder, if there is an issue with the low bid and the architect is currently evaluating those bids, I believe that the $8 million threshold is enough. As you recall, we were looking at initially doing about $7.65 million, and we put a little extra in, say not to exceed $8 million. But with that, we believe that it should cover the existing costs. What we don't know, and nobody will know until we start the project, if that's where we're going, is what that contingency amount would be. So this leaves us, right as we speak, with somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 or $500,000 in contingency on the project. And that's why when you look at the agenda item that was presented, the supplemental information, it looks like the costs for the, from what was estimated and what the actual bids came in at, looks like, well, it's actually about the same. Well, not really, because the estimate included some contingency in there, whereas obviously the bid does not. But we feel we need that contingency because, with two buildings, you don't know what you might get into in that project. So we feel we need to have that contingency there. What that dollar value on that contingency, if any, will be, we do not know. But as we speak today, we certainly believe that the $8 million will give us some contingency going forward, and we'll just have to.
I would just supplement it by saying that the two areas that we feel that may pose an issue in moving forward the project, that there's no way of really knowing. One is the fact that this portion of the building was originally constructed in 1935 to 1938. So as you get behind some walls and things, there may be some issues. We want to be able to have resources available should they be needed to address. And then secondarily, the site at the Whiteman location was, of course, once the home of historic buildings many years ago that have been since raised. We don't know concretely, even though we've done soil sampling and testing at the site, we don't know concretely exactly what we'll finally get in there. So this is the two areas in discussing with things. We want to make sure that we're not getting into a project and not having those contingency dollars, which is why we included them at this level as part of the overall recommendation to council.
Thank you. Any other?
I just want to make a comment. I'll be voting no, too. And I don't believe the public can be educated enough on this issue. I've been against this project from day one because I'm not a tax and spender. This is going to cost you, the taxpayers, $12 million over 25 years. Your water and sewer rates are going to have to be raised. To balance the budget, there's a proposal to have $800,000 street light assessment. We have a negative cash flow going out the next 4 years. So we can't educate the public enough on just doesn't make, now is not the time to do this project. But after saying that, I guess we'll see what happens. And also, one of my biggest disappointments in my career is when I could have got this put on the ballot to let the citizens decide, and by a 4-2 vote, it was voted down by this council. Why wouldn't you let the citizens decide on what to do with their tax dollars? So anyway, I'll be voting no, and that's it. Thank you.
As a point of order, Mr. Law Director, would you refresh myself and the council and the listening public regarding the proposal for a ballot item? I do not recall it being something that was decisive by public vote.
Well,
Well, the bond issues could be. The overall issue, should we build the building or not, would not necessarily be decided. You can get what's called an advisory opinion that doesn't hold, it's not binding.
Yes.
You could put the bond issue on the ballot, and then they could decide that issue up or down. But the actual, should we build a building or not, is what's called an advisory opinion.
Thank you.
And that was my point. It had nothing to do with the bonds. It had to do with putting do you want to build a city hall? Very plain and simple. Let the citizens decide. It had nothing to do with the bonds. It had to do, as an advisory capacity, do you, the citizens, want to build a new city hall? For the record.
Any other questions or comments, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Cow.
No.
Councilman Lauterbach.
No.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Nothing further this evening, Mr. President?
Thank you. Anything for the law director this evening? Seeing none, any updates to our summary of action items, Mr. City Manager?
We are still working on the pledge. I didn't forget about it. We're actually working to try to get a program going with some citizenship components, so we are following through on that. And then we spoke earlier this evening on some of the tax abatement and related issues for the town square, so I think we're up to date.
Thank you very much.
Community funding guidelines will come back to the next council meeting.
Thank you. Any additions or deletions from my colleagues for the summary of action items? I think the one item that would have trailed from our earlier
MOU
would be to an MOU and to schedule some regular updates at an appropriate time.
Does council have a preference on when you'd like to do that in terms of how many and how?
We have about 6 months between now and the conclusion of the period. I would think 2 updates are probably appropriate in that time. That way we could see midpoint and just right before, perhaps somewhere in the 30 days before the clock would run out in September. Any other items, please? Seeing none, reading of communications and discussion. Councilman Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate those that are watching the program tonight. Prior to our meeting at 7, when it became televised, from 6:15 to 7 o'clock today, we, as council, sat in a special presentation with the Jeremiah Tree and the Bridges of Simon Kenton project. That is a proactive measure that City Council is working on to help address the problem of homelessness, poverty, and the poor. So for a citizen to get up on camera and speak, that's great. You know, they're allowed to do that. But have your information correct. There's not one person on this council who I know has not donated their own money for projects for Xenia. You know, I myself, I have a vested interest in Xenia. I have a home. I have children that attend school. I have a business. I know there's an issue with poverty. I know there's poor people out there who need money. But my wife should not be subjected to being approached in a parking lot by somebody wanting money and not being afraid to not have to handle that situation. And yeah, there's people that need money, and I don't know what the answer is, but this council is not an unkind council. This council cares about the poor, and we care about our community. So I take offense to what was presented tonight. I don't feel threatened at all. And I pity somebody who does not take the time to even stay through the rest of the council meeting to watch, to see what this council is willing to do to help this community. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Kelp, please.
Thank you very much. For those of you that are unaware, I had the pleasure of attending a meeting with Xenia Community Schools, and the mayor also attended a couple weeks ago. the Xenia Community Schools have a turf project coming to the high school for Veterans Field. This is kind of a preliminary draft of what they, would hope the field would look like when they get finished with the project. But a turf field would open up the door for a lot of good things for our community. We've been in talks with AIA, and they have a football program now, and the possibility of after-season tournaments. A turf field would give the community schools the ability to hold Division III and Division IV playoff games that the people travel to heavily. It would bring in thousands of people to our community. Band competitions that they cannot hold currently because we do not have turf, soccer tournaments, etc. They are looking to raise the money to put this field in. The money has to be raised by March 31st, or excuse me, March 1st. So therefore, at the end of February here, they have to have the money. No taxpayer funds will be used for the project. They have $250,000 from the Adams Trust, $200,000 from the Miami Valley Hospital, and then they're hoping to raise the remainder of the money. They needed about $172,000 total, roughly $175,000, and they've made a considerable dent in that project in just a couple weeks here. We've got a couple weeks left. They're looking for anyone willing to donate. They would like $5,000 donations. You can donate $1,000 a year over 5 years if you want. But you don't have to donate $5,000 either. You can donate $50, you can donate $100, you can donate $500, whatever you can afford to donate. But I would just encourage anybody that has kids in Xenia Community Schools, that have kids that play soccer, that have kids that play football, that have kids in the band. They're all going to benefit from this project. Our city as a whole will benefit from this project. This form here is on the Xenia Schools webpage. It's on their Facebook page. It's on the Xenia Bucks Facebook page. It's out there in many different places where you can commit to some funds. But they would definitely encourage and like anyone to donate anything they can towards this project. I'm 100% behind this project. Many organizations and many people in the community are behind it, and they really just need a few more donors to put them over the top in this project. And once that is met, construction will start immediately this year, and the field will be completed by the middle of July for the first games in August. So real exciting time to be in Xenia, and just can't encourage people enough to consider making a donation to that. Thank you very much.
Councilman, why don't you tell them how close they actually are? They're very close.
They're roughly about $30,000 away. So the one thing the superintendent is committed to is using absolutely no taxpayer funds. And he is committed that if he does not have the funds come March 1st, he will return all the money that has been donated. And I would hate to see all that money be returned to people when we are that close to making this project happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Mills, please.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that Xenia High School is having a new play coming out. It's a musical. It's called The Drowsy Chaperone. It will be February 27th and 28th. Please check their websites. Tickets are on sale at the door for $5 and $10. It is going to be a great program, so I encourage you to mark your calendar, save the date for February 27th and 28th. And I also wanted to address some of the audience comments that we had tonight also. I am very active in the X Out Hunger program, and I know that I have attended seminars for circles and other things with mayor and other people here on council that has attended these things. The Jeremiah Tree Circles, after-school program, fish pantry, Dress for Success, school supply closet, emergency shelter is just half. I want every other line of things that are going to be at the Simon Kenton Bridges of Hope if it all comes to fruition. We on council have continually supported Xenia. We might not always agree on what is the best way to support Xenia, but we would not be here if we didn't want Xenia to be the very best Xenia could be. And I was speaking at Xenia High School with the liaison for the homeless, and she says, "I've got to tell you something that someone told me the other day." And I shared it with our prior meeting, but that wasn't wasn't televised, so I want to say it again. We had a complete stranger to our community move into our community, and her quote was, "What a blessing it is to move into a community that cares about those who are in need." So that's not coming from us, and we're not tooting our own horns. That's a quote from someone that knows nothing about us, but only sees what she has seen. And so I just want to say that we are a city of hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Louderback, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just piggybacking on Councilman Kaupp's, the new football field. You know, we've got so many positive things going on in Xenia. I mean, we can talk about some of them, but we can't talk about the others. But I want to commend city manager, finance director, law director. You guys have been working overtime. We have so many positive things, and I'm so excited. The rec center, the movie theater, football field. There's some things we can't talk about. So Xenia is really growing, and I appreciate the efforts of our three appointed officials and of City Council. And I want to piggyback on Councilman Smith's. I appreciate your comments. I, too, know the hearts of all these council people. We don't always agree on everything, but I do know one thing. We're compassionate about the homeless. And for a gentleman to come here, I didn't recognize him without his mask on. For a gentleman to come here and address this council like he addressed them, you know what? We're not going to cower in the corner, sir. You've taken on a council that you probably shouldn't take on, because we are very passionate about what we do. And for you to come here and insinuate that we don't care about the homeless, I take great offense to that. And again, didn't recognize you without your mask. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mayor, please.
Thank you. And I too agree that we all serve those who are in need. We care about those who are in need, and I think it's been said over and over, and it can't be said enough, because everybody here individually and collectively show their concerns and their care for those in need. I do want to thank I'm thankful that I was able to attend for the very first time the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and that's why I was not at the last council meeting. It was held in Washington, D.C., January 21st through the 23rd, and it was my very first conference in my 5 years as mayor. To save money, we rode to to Washington. I rode with the mayor of Trotwood, who acted as my mentor since it was not her first time attending the conference, but it really was excellent. It was a great experience, and they had meetings from morning until evening, and you sometimes had breakfast meetings, sometimes there were luncheons, and then sometimes, of course, dinner meetings. The Sacramento Mayor Kevin Johnson, who's a retired NBA player, serves as president of the conference. There were all kinds of workshops, just so many, and you could go as a small city, or if you were a big city, you could attend others. So they had something for everybody. Probably the most popular one, of course, would be strengthening police and community relations in America's cities. And it's always good when you go and when you hear about the problems that other communities and cities, large cities and small cities, are having, and then you think about how fortunate we are. I also attended this week the governor's meeting that was held at Central State University this past Monday, and it addressed the same thing about police and community relations. And then I did have a gentleman that asked to meet. He wanted me to meet as well as our city manager. We had the chief of police, 2 captains, just to talk about proactive approaches to dealing with police relations in Xenia. And he was very complimentary about how he sees the police at youth activities and around the city. And really that's the key, and that's what was stressed in every meeting I heard, that if the community sees you and if you're interacting, it makes it so much better. And so I'm really thankful that we have a police force who's not just behind a desk or just in the cars driving, but actually being involved in the community. I was able to hear the vice president, and he was one of the keynote speakers, and he talked about the very latest accomplishments of the president and the cabinet. He spoke for about 45 minutes, and though it was long, it really was interesting. On Friday was a private meeting with the president, President Obama. Unfortunately, we had to leave to drive back on Friday morning, so I missed him, but the good thing was we dodged some bad weather that was coming that way. So, but all in all, it was an excellent meeting. I was able to bring back some information, and I've given that to our city manager. Then other activities, the week of January 25th through the 31st is Catholic Schools Week, and so I did present a proclamation to St. Bridget's School. And I attended the Dayton Development Coalition. They had their 2014 review, and it really was a positive review for this area. One of the things that they mentioned was that Wright Pat has about a $4 billion annual impact in our region. And there are a lot of new corporations, and the region is growing stronger. I attended Wright-Patterson Community Partnership 2014 annual report, and I went there this morning. I went early enough that I missed that bad weather, but it was okay when I came back home. But anyway, I serve on the leadership team because I represent the region's mayors and city managers. And of course, great strides have come from this partnership. Some of the things that they are doing, they have a veterans transition program in place now. They have a talent pipeline and some paid internships. So they're working with, they said, 22 different universities, but definitely the universities in our area. They have shared recreation and facilities, and that's the pools at Wright Pat. Shared resource exchange, where they're educating firefighters. They have cooperative purchases like salt. The medical partnerships, especially with the VA Center, transportation, and there are many more things to come yet. But in just a year, this has taken place and really developed into something that really helps the region in this great partnership. And then also, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum for the Tuskegee Airmen display, and they had their open house, and it was really, really good. And of course, our own Xenia, Mr. Charles Feaster was there, and he drove there, and but anyway, it was it was really good, and a great display. And I took my great nephew to let him see it as well, because my father was a Tuskegee Airman as well. So it was wonderful. So a lot of great things happening.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Vice President. Thank you. Two things. One, when I was listening to our audience comments earlier, it reminded me I was able to speak at the YMCA Youth Development Team. I was invited there because I was second in line because the mayor couldn't come, and I know the person. But I was able to speak with this group of youth at the YMCA in Dayton. I think you've done that in the past. One of the questions that the youth asked of this group of panels of politicians was what could they do to prepare themselves to get into politics? And I heard some bad advice, I heard some good advice, things like networking. But one of the things I told those kids is to prepare yourself emotionally for it. One thing's been hard for me the last 4 years to overcome in this job is that just when you think you're doing something compassionate in your heart, there's a group that's going to tell you you're not. And I remember us debating this ordinance, 1331. I was looking up on my phone a couple of years ago, and I just encourage people to go onto the city's website and read that ordinance. It does not stop you from being caring, compassionate. It does not stop you from giving to the homeless. I'm glad to hear that it's prompted some individuals to give to the homeless, and we'll see how that event goes. It does stop people from being aggressive, and we've had some problems, and the police department made some recommendations because we had problems. I'm pretty sure we had members of the public come and speak. I myself had my 13-year-old approached by a man that should not approach him on private property, asking him for $1 out front where the karate dojo is, which I thought he was stupid for doing in the first place there. But he was aggressive enough to where he scared the kids to come get help, and he refused to leave. The thing to note about Town Square, and I remember hearing that issue too over the scanner, was that woman was not arrested. She was let go, and she was panhandling on private property. And that ordinance prevents you from panhandling on private property. Someone had to feel something because the police got notified. They're not out there seeking, they don't have time to go seek out panhandlers. Whatever comes to that, everything that Councilman Smith started the conversation, I agree completely with you, so I don't need to restate it. The second item is just a reminder, like I did last meeting on March 7th. I'm happy once again to host the Xenia Youth Expo at the Xenia Community Center. If you are a group who cater to the youth, I know Wee Bucks is going to be there. Wee Bucks gets very enthusiastic about their booth. They've asked for 2 booths this year, and we're going to accommodate their enthusiasm. Scouting groups, church groups, and other groups come and can exhibit for free there to parents. We normally see about 1,000 people come in and out those doors. If you're interested in exhibiting at that event, just go to xeniayouth.com, sign up for free, sends my wife an email. She gets it. I don't do all that work. And we look forward to see everyone on the 7th. It is open and free to the public too, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you. That's Xenia Community Center. Jim.
Thank you. 2 things from me as well. I would also concur with all of my colleagues vis-a-vis the audience comments this evening. I would leave the audience and anyone who's still watching us with one thought, though. While I might disagree with the individual on the intellectual aspect of what he was bringing forward, I absolutely support his right to come and speak to us publicly about something that's on his mind. That's one of the greatest freedoms in this country, is the First Amendment. What I would ask of him, or anyone else for that matter, is that when you take that opportunity to come and speak and to share your knowledge and to hopefully influence people, thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Do your homework. There's nothing that gives you less credibility than creating an image of something that you wish to push as your personal agenda with sporadic data that when any level of scrutiny gets put to, the story falls apart. So I support you in coming and speaking on any topic that is appropriate, that you choose to, but please do your homework. Secondly, I would express just great appreciation to all of our city staff for all of the work that they've put in over these past 4 or 5 plus years, getting us to this point where in our consideration for a new city administration building and a rejuvenation and renovation of this facility, while we on council might not always agree, I think we would all agree that our appointed officials and staff have done a superb job of bringing us the information, answering our questions, and showing us options that in some cases we asked for, in other cases we hadn't even thought of. So appointed officials, staff, my hat is off to you if I were wearing one. You have done a superb job of doing exactly what you need to do lead within the city and provide options to the decision-making body. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Without further ado, I would ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Louderback. Second, please.
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Roll call.
Vice President Long.
Aye.
Councilman Couch. Aye. Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Bayless.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.